Father Orsai one day opens the church doors, and finds 3 baby boys. One named Asta, one named Yuno, and another named Viento. He brings them inside. Yuno is a boy with black hair and a necklace, and Asta is a quiet rambunctious boy with white hair. Third little boy was like a good in between the both. Viento was a boy with black hair as well. Years later we find Asta begging Sister Lily to marry him, and she says no. He, after trying since he was a kid, gives up, and understands that she won't change her mind. Yuno arrives around the corner, helps with the laundry using his strong wind magic. In the past and even now, Asta was barely able to use magic. But Sister Lily assures him he'll get a grimoire, and then he'll be able to use magic more effectively. Viento has the abilities of ghosts, essentially ghost magic, a very unique magic. He tries to cheer up Asta as well, and they train for a bit. So Asta picks himself up, announcing that when he does, he'll become the Wizard King, and make their lives better. The day of the grimoire ceremony arrives, and everyone's grimoires come down. And indeed Asta did get one, a fiery red grimoire. His excitement was undeniable. It was pretty thin, however with Asta being a commoner it was expected. It pretty much made sense, but it being thin was the only weird thing about it. Nash, Viento and Rose also got their grimoires, enthusiastically hugging her book. She runs up to Asta and tells him to look, Nash walking up to Yuno. Meanwhile, after everyone gets theirs, Yuno's comes late, and out comes the 4-leaf clover. Yuno declares he'll be the Wizard King, and everyone cheers in astonishment. However, Asta with his new grimoire and magic declares he will be the Wizard King, causing people to laugh all around them, but Asta doesn't care. He finally has a chance to access more magic. A couple moments later, Yuno gets attacked by some angry guys, because he stole their spotlight, and they're no match for him. Until Rev Chi, an ex-magic knight, shows up, and restrains both of them, including Yuno, so he can take the 4-leaf clover. Yuno tells him he can't use the grimoire. So why even bother taking it, although Rev Chi just replies with it can still be sold on the black market. That's when Asta shows up, and tries to help Yuno. Yuno tells Asta to run, but he's not going to run from a guy like Rev Chi. Asta can't use his new grimoire, which is odd. However, he is now able to use flame magic. However, it's in its purest form, no amplification that typically the grimoire would provide, almost as if his grimoire is locked. Because of this, Asta is beaten and thrown into a wall, where Rev Chi mocks him. Although surprised as he mentions Asta having magic so insignificant that it might as well not be there, and he has no hope. It actually makes Asta want to give up, but before he can, Yuno screams at him that he won't become the Wizard King. Rev Chi tries to use that to mock Asta further, but Yuno says he'll become the Wizard King, and Asta is his rival. Bringing back Asta's will to fight, getting Rev Chi to back off. He tells Yuno to give him a minute, then he'll destroy the guy. It's then as a black 5-leaf grimoire appears in front of Asta, Yuno and he are astonished. 2 grimoires. However, this one works, dropping Asta a big sword. Asta picks up the sword and charges at Rev Chi, and Rev Chi gets demolished. And Yuno is freed. He reminisces on the past as he walks towards Asta. From Asta declaring he'd be the Wizard King, to Asta saving him from a drunk thief and getting his necklace back, and even now. That's when they renew the vow that one of them would become the Wizard King. They bump fists and declare they'll fight to see who will be the Wizard King, whatever it takes. Asta develops a rivalry with Yuno, Nash, Rose and Viento. Since Nash decides to train with Yuno, Rose decides to train with Asta. Nash got his flame magic amplified, and Rose got her copy magic amplified. Rose wanted to train with Asta for the most part, and oftentimes they all train together. Viento most of the time choosing to train on his own, since he's not sure how his magic works with or against the others. However, he still took the opportunity, since it could do nothing but help. This gave them all variety, and made them a whole lot stronger. The day comes, and Asta, Yuno, Nash, Viento, and Rose all take off towards the capital. They arrive and marvel at the scenery, and argue over becoming Wizard King. However, eventually they make their way to the ceremony, as some of the people scream out good luck. Asta yells back, "I won't let you down," with stars in his eyes, while his 4 siblings all say in their heads, "I don't know him, I don't know him." They all move into the center. Nash and Rose having to deal with just a couple of anti-birds, while Asta is being swarmed. And along with Viento, has absolutely none hovering over him, clearly the strongest of the 5. After some time, a single anti-bird lands on Asta's head, and glared at the others, making them all disperse. Asta, recognizing the bird, thanks him. Surprised, the bird followed him all the way from Hosh. The others ask him about the bird, and he relays that the bird has always stuck close, but never this close. Eventually the exam begins, and everyone does well except Asta, who can't use his magic even though he has 2 grimoires, until the final test, where Seke offers to be his partner, after which he mocks Asta. Asta, not taking kindly to that, beats Seke in only a single strike. Afterwards, goes up against Salim Hapshash, and similar to Asta, beats the cocky noble. Nash goes next, and thanks to his training, he's able to beat his opponent. Same thing for Rose, especially since she's able to copy her opponent's magic. And Viento doesn't really have any trouble. The selection begins. Asta doesn't get picked by anyone, until Yami chimes in. And Asta joins the Black Bulls. Next, gets picked by all the squads. Picks the Golden Dawn. Next, Nash gets picked only by the Black Bulls, the Praying Mantis squad, the Aqua Deer, and the Purple Orcus. Nash chose the Aqua Deer. Meanwhile, Rose got some of the same offers: the Black Bulls, Mantis squad, Blue Rose Knights, Coral Peacocks. Eventually joining the Coral Peacocks, Viento getting offers from all the squads. Joining the Praying Mantis squad, they meet up before saying goodbye. Afterwards they leave to join their squads. As Asta was heading to the bathroom, Seke tried to pull a fast one, and is stopped by as Nash, Rose and Viento stand by him, causing Seke to run with his tail between his legs, and they all laugh as Asta walks out. Asta arrives at the Black Bulls hideout with Captain Yami, and his 2 new teammates Finral and Gordon. Finral introduces himself, then the others. Afterwards, Magna smugly demands a baptism, for Asta to see if he's worthy. Once outside they begin the test, and Asta is doing pretty well. But once they get the last part, where Asta has to defend himself against Magna, they are all shocked to see he has 2 grimoires, although he's only able to use one. The second one is definitely his since it floats next to him. Magna begins his test and Asta is able to deflect his attack back to him. And they all congratulate him, and welcome him to the squad. Nash is welcomed into the Aqua Deer, and begins to make friends quickly. The thing that surprises him most is, their captain is only 19. Nash makes friends with a guy a year older named Caden. Caden has lightning magic and comes from a noble family. He has blonde hair, green eyes, and loves to wear white, with a bit of black mixed in, not different from his family. Meanwhile, Rose meets her squad captain Dorothy Unsworth, who introduces herself in her dream world. Surprisingly, she's super nice, and also does give her a heads up. Not everyone is accepting of commoners, but those who are great allies. She also meets Zoe, who has sound magic, a quiet girl with straight black hair, bangs covering her forehead, glasses and white shirt covered by her pink magic knight's robe, and black skirt with black boots to complete the set. She became Rose's friend in the Coral Peacocks. The girl is a noble, but she isn't arrogant. She also meets her rookie teammates, Destino, a boy with a dark skin, short around Asta's height, messy black hair, wearing a black shirt with a white jacket over it, and the pink magic knight's robe over that, and black pants to finish the set. And Lou's a girl with dark skin, black hair, that almost reached her waist, only slightly shorter than Destino, wearing a red dress, with leggings and boots, with the pink robe over her shoulders, and gloves. Both being nice, but interesting as well, when they told her about being commoners. Viento gets into his squad and Captain Jack welcomes him, and tells him he expects great things. He gets to know Seke more and realizes the guy is disappointing. He doesn't really train and flaunts mediocre power. Viento tells him this much, and although Seke denies it, but after a sparring match it's pretty obvious. Yuno also arrives at the Golden Dawn Castle, and is mocked by his superior Klaus. And meets his rookie teammate Mimosa Vermilion. She actually is pretty nice. They get along, and although Yuno doesn't know it, Mimosa finds herself staring a bit. Asta wakes up noting excitedly that it wasn't a dream, and he had actually joined the Magic Knights. He sprints through his bedroom door, into a pillar. Ata is annoyed as he could have sworn that pillar wasn't there yesterday. He talks to Magna about it. And Magna assures him he isn't wrong, and tells him the base is shifting all the time. Magna then decides he's going to show Asta around. They excitedly run around as Asta is introduced to each room. At one point disturbing their captain, while he's in the bathroom. Eventually they run into Noel Silva, the other rookie. Asta says hi, but receives a smack to the hand. And she calls him a commoner, putting him down for being inferior. Asta and Magna then snap back at her, when she decides to attack Asta. But for some reason diverts her attack to hitting Magna. Magna then reprimands her. But in a fit of anger she throws her robe on the ground. She then walks away saying she quits. Calling the Bulls the worst Magic Knight squad there is, Magna in rage yells out to her to apologize. Meanwhile Asta thinks about how hard it was getting in, and she just threw it away. The next day as he tries to find the bathroom, due to the shifting base, he gets lost and asks himself how he even ended up outside. Afterwards a water attack flies at him, hitting him. He screams out, "Where did that come from?" He then follows what sounds like screams of frustration, finally arriving at the area. He sees Noelle shooting out water attacks towards a target, having hit everything but the target. In her head she says to herself, "Why can't I hit what I'm aiming for?" Asta eventually gets noticed. And out of fear she goes to attack, but her magic goes out of control horribly. It alerts the whole squad, and they try to figure out how to stop it. Luckily Asta drops in. Yami then orders Asta to stop it. He doesn't know how he'd get up there, so Yami launches him up. Asta dispels the magic, and they cheer her up afterward, welcoming her to the squad properly. Asta and Noelle do chores, or more correctly Asta doing the chores while Noelle watches. When they are met by Yami and Magna, who are naked because they lost everything. To Seihi and gambling, after losing to Seihi, the village chief of Saucy Village. They have to get rid of some boars, for the village since they're causing trouble. And that becomes the first mission for Asta and Noelle, with Magna joining them. They arrive outside of Saucy Village, and kill all the boars. And head straight to Saucy Village, where they find that it's under attack. Asta and Magna arrive just in time to see Seihi almost killed. Before he's killed, Magna intercepts the attack. That's when a combination of spells is thrown at them, a huge shard of ice. Magna can't block it, because he isn't fast enough. So Asta has to step in and destroy it, after which they are met with waves of ice. They struggle, but eventually Noelle gets a new spell, a defense spell. Noelle protected the people. Seihi tried to help, but he was injured. So they didn't want him joining in to help. After putting up a struggle, Heath and his men are beaten. Afterward they head back as Heath killed himself, and the others with him. They returned to the Black Bull's hideout, and reported to Yami. And they laughed about the situation. They got a couple of stars, especially since Seihi mentioned the three. Meanwhile Nash is on a mission fighting bandits. Easily beating the bandits, and getting some stars for his squad. Same thing for Rose, where she also has to fight diamond mages, with her squad. Beating them and pushing them back, gaining her squad some stars. Yuno gets his first mission, and he has to defend the noble Salim. Alongside Klaus and Mimosa, however at first some bandits attack and fail. It wasn't long before Klaus figured out their true intentions. They never went after Salim. Salim then, after speaking with Yuno, he suggests visiting Yuno's home. However Klaus interjects with the objective of the mission, but Salim insists. They arrive and they are greeted happily by Father Orsi and Nun Sister Lily. They are all welcome to stay for a bit. Which they do reluctantly. Mimosa comments on the church being cute. After a while Sister Lily decides to head outside to refill the water bowl, and Salim gives her his jacket. Out of nowhere while outside, Sister Lily is taken. Yuno decides to go after her, leaving Klaus and Mimosa with Selim. He takes on most of the bandits and beats them, aside from the last one which Klaus takes care of. He informs Yuno of the interrogation, and what they found. Selim set the whole thing up and was never in danger, the whole time Yuno was the target. They head back and report to their captain William Vangeance, where they are rewarded a star. Due to their mission helping an investigation of the Hapsash. Viento fights some Spade Kingdom mages, attacking near the border of Diamond and Clover. They're strong but not enough to overwhelm him. He actually puts up a pretty good fight. Eventually killing them, and finishing his mission, he heads back to headquarters. Earlier that day, Asta, Noel and Vanessa all go shopping in the black market, where they encounter a thief who steals from an old lady in front of the Black Bulls. Asta chases after them, while Vanessa and Noel help the old lady up and assure her he'll get her loot back. But Seke, after running into them, doesn't want to let Asta have all the glory. So they both end up in pursuit of the thief. Eventually Seke catches them first, and then gets stabbed in the foot, proceeds to panic a little too much. Vanessa gives him something to heal the temporary wound, and tells him to relax. They then return the winnings to the old lady, then head out. Asta and the Black Bulls argue about the anti-bird companion's name, throwing around names. From Birdie Boy to Nero, which Nero the bird seems to like. In the middle of the argument, Yami arrives and informs them that a new dungeon has appeared on a border between the Clover and Diamond Kingdom. And with that, the Wizard King wants Asta to be a part of the group from the Bulls to explore it, alongside Noel, so she can continue to gain experience, and sending Luck along to supervise as their superior. Finral sends them to the dungeon as close as possible. They have a bit of complaints, but Finral can only go to places he's been to before, so they're at least grateful for what they got. They head in stumbling, eventually breaking their only lantern. But Luck is able to find a lit area, with very thick mana. He messes with Asta and Noel, but it only works for so long, as Asta and Noel are able to see the mana, and he feels the difference in his mana and the surrounding mana. After messing around a bit, Luck locates enemies, and heads straight to them without leading Asta and Noel. Asta and Noel walk around cluelessly, until they both fall for the same trap. However, they are saved by Yuno and his squad. Asta doesn't really get along with Klaus. They go their separate ways, and race towards the treasure hall. But Noel senses Luck fighting somewhere, and suggests joining him. They rush towards Luck to join the fight. Meanwhile, in a different part of the dungeon, Nash and Rose meet each other with their squads, and they all struggle with the enemy. A man with jewels in his forehead, and a weird grimoire, using not only flame magic, but also wind, which made no sense. Eventually they beat him, and he retreats, and they make their way to the treasure hall. Asta and Noel fight alongside Luck against a smoke magic user from the Diamond Kingdom, and eventually they're able to beat him. Asta didn't have enough magic to be detected, but once again the mage immediately retreats, and so Luck leads them to the treasure hall. They arrive to Yuno struggling against a mage using crystal-like magic. Asta saves Yuno when the other two squads arrive a little later. As it appears, Asta has beaten the other mage. He is restrained by Klaus. They all wonder on how to get in, and Luck informs Asta that he should be able to get past it due to it being magic. They all make their way inside and immediately run around looting a lot of it. After Luck informs them that the magic holding the place together will collapse, so anything they gather will help the kingdom. Asta finds a sword that is smaller, after Nero leads him to a room. Yuno gets a scroll that was attuned to his affinity. Nash finds a box filled with what seems like random trinkets. A random tooth he can sense mana in, along with 9 other items. And Rose found a scythe that she could pour her magic into, and a scroll that could infinitely store things. As Yuno is using his wind magic to pour most of the gold and other items into the scroll, they reveal one of the diamond mages. The Black Bulls step up since it's Lotus, their opponent earlier, but before they get started, Mars and Ven both walk in. Fully recovered using flame magic. Everyone in the same room was fully recovered. Luz using weapon magic, Destino imagination magic, and Rose get ready to fight Venerable Golden Dawn gets ready to fight Mars, although Mimosa is mainly in the center of all the groups. She is the healer, Zoe one of the higher-ranked members of the Coral Peacocks. Also Caden and Nash both surround Mimosa, since she's healer it makes sense. Noelle immediately shoots Mars getting rid of his recovery flames. She tries to get the other guys too. But she didn't have the element of surprise, so he easily blocked it. Ven thinks that gives him an advantage, until Rose speed blitzed up to him and slashed at him. Copy magic, water magic, she gets rid of his flame recovery magic. After that everyone launches at each other, as they're all fighting. The mana holding the place together finally collapses. And the whole place starts to collapse. Luckily the place was basically cleaned out. Yuno creates a tornado to carry some, the Golden Dawn sit with the Aqua Deer. And Mimosa gets ready to lead them out. Rose was able to copy Yuno's first spell. But Yuno has a higher mana amount, so she can't cast another. Destino uses his imagination magic to create a similar spell to Mimosa's spell. And he leads them out, while Luck uses his magic to track possible debris. The Diamond Mages use Lotus, Cart to escape. And use the exit the Clover Knights created to escape, and retreated. The Clover Knights all sit outside. Klaus apologizes to everyone for his prejudice, and they all laugh. Then take the scroll and pick out what they needed. After all there were still an insane amount of value within. Taking a couple of prizes wouldn't hurt, Klaus was against it. But Asta argued that any items taken would only make them stronger, and help protect the kingdom. Asta and Noelle arrive at the castle town again, and meet up with the other squads who were present. They all chat for a bit, but eventually head for the meeting spot. Where they meet the Wizard King, he asks them about the things they found. Yuno got a new spell which he inspected, and informed Yuno it was the Wind Spirit. Yuno asked if he knew how to activate it again, and he said no. He'd have to figure it out on his own. He also inspected Asta's second sword, which he could not hold for long at least. He inspected the relics Nash got, and told him he suspected it was something similar to Yuno's situation. And for the scythe that Rose grabbed, it was a great magic item that absorbed and adapted to the magic put into it, very powerful. Noelle grabbed a powerful set of bracelets that not only matched but refined magic. The others didn't really get anything. Asta and Yuno asked what it took to become Wizard King. After that they are invited to the Distinguished Service Ceremony, where magic knights are awarded with promotions. Afterwards the Wizard King had to leave, leaving the guests with the other knights. The other knights start talking shit. Asta doesn't really care. The cocky royals take this as a chance to insult the others for being commoners, even going after Noelle for being weak, and alongside Mimosa for getting injured. Then when Klaus tries to defend her and the others, only to get silenced. Solid tries to spill water on Noelle's head, but she has better control now. And with the bracelets she sends it into his face. Solid insults her and goes to attack her. And their sister Nibra using her magic restrain Noelle. However Asta stepped in, canceling out both spells, and calls them both cowards. And insults every one of the cocky royals and nobles. Nibra and Solid send spells at Noelle and Asta, but they deflect them with ease, and Noelle retaliates. But it's blocked by Sandla, the cocky Golden Dawn member, then sends a giant sand golem towards the two. Yuno and Klaus, both ready to intervene, watches Nash and his teammate block the attack together. Caden mocks the royals, since for some people their dignity goes past just social status. Sandler tries to insult his status, but Caden is also a noble, so it just makes him look stupid. And Caden doesn't have a problem pointing it out. The fight seems like it's about to escalate, until Fuego Leon steps in and demands everyone stop. Leopold laughs and goes on to make friends with everyone, and declares them as rivals. Things lighten up and everyone is about to just relax. However, Nozel is infuriated at the fact Leopold accepted commoners, so he insults Fuego Leon, since in his eyes commoners and foreigners are beneath royalty, and another fight seems to be brewing. However, before anything can pop off, a guard rushes into the room and yells the capital is under attack. And immediately Shuren creates a sand replica of the entire capital. Fuego Leon immediately starts planning, but Asta is already running. With Leopold running behind him, the teams spread out. And Asta runs into the spellcaster of the undead attacking the capital, and begins to fight him. However, having to protect the little girl makes it hard for him to fight. Noel and Leopold show up. Noel rescues the little girl by taking out the flames and tries to help Asta. But Rades throws other puppets for Noel and Leo to face, leaving Asta to deal with them alone. Asta fights Rades handicapped since he doesn't have ranged spells. Fuego Leon eventually intervenes. Unfortunately, he gets captured using spatial magic, and comes back with an arm missing. Asta, Leo and Noel all end up surrounded, after Rades tries to get away. And Asta beats him half to death. Reinforcements show up but for the terrorist group. And the trio begin to struggle, until the rest of the Magic Knights return. With other knights there, the group retreats, leaving them behind. With only the name the Eye of the Midnight Sun, and escape. Mimosa does her best to stabilize Fuego Leon, but she's not skilled enough. They all get him somewhere to recover. After a while the Wizard King pops back up, and apologizes for not being there. However, the Magic Knights take responsibility, and things go on. Charmy, having taken down one of the members of the Eye of the Midnight Sun, gets promoted, and so does Asta alongside Noel. Asta gets invited to a mixer by Finral, and he and Luck join Finral. Asta becomes good friends with Rebecca, and still plans on visiting her. He does, and gets along with them, and has a great time. And eventually meets Marie and other kids at a church. Turns out Marie is Gauche's little sister, and he doesn't trust people. While they're after meeting Gauche there, things get a little violent, and as they're outside they realize kids are missing. And next thing you know, Gauche is yelling at the sister, and Asta has to stop him. After that they all team up to get the kids back. Noel stays behind. They arrive at the cave where the kids were kept, and beat the crap out of the two. Unfortunately, the leader of the Eye of the Midnight Sun showed up and injured both Gauche and Sister Teresa. Asta would have been next, but Yami showed up, and got ready to take on Licht. Finral takes everyone except Asta, and Yami away. Asta is told to fight Valtos Licht's teleporter. He struggled at first. But after Yami tells him about Ki, he figures it out and jumped into a portal and knocked Valtos out. Yami fights Licht, and Licht decides to use a finishing move, and Yami realized they wouldn't be able to survive. And before the attack could reach them, Gauche, using his full reflection, sends the attack back, heavily damaging Licht. However, they were all out of mana. So they had to wait for Finral to recover his magic. Before he did though, a different group showed up. Turns out the Eye of the Midnight Sun had a trio who were stronger than Licht. Yami had to fight the three by himself, until three other captains showed up. Captain of the Silver Eagles Nozel Silva, Captain of the Praying Mantis Squad, and Captain Charlotte of the Blue Rose Knights. They all give Yami some time to rest, and fight the Third Eye. Fighting equally and not really getting anywhere, Yami at one point gets Finral to create a portal for him. However, Licht expected this and was ready to launch a finishing blow, but what he didn't expect was Asta. Launching and smacking Licht with his sword, Asta gave Yami the perfect opening. With both strikes landing, Licht was far too damaged, and his seal was broken. And Licht was about to explode, but was stabilized by the Third Eye. And then they decided to retreat, leaving everyone in the cave surprised. Captain Jack, feeling like Asta outperformed them, then scolds Yami. And demands his thanks. If it wasn't for them, he'd be dead. After reporting to the Wizard King, Yami, Charmy and Asta are in his office when Marx informs the Wizard King of the invading forces. Diamond's shining generals, at least 3 of them, the equivalent to the Magic Knight captains. Yami offers to head there, but Golden Dawn arrives to defend the border town. Yami still offers to head over as reinforcements, which the Wizard King accepts. Asta offers to go as well. Yami at first rejects the offer. But when Charmy as his superior offers to go along, keeping an eye on him, Yami agrees, and they all find Finral, and he gets them to the border town. They assist the Golden Dawn where they can, and Asta sees Yuno and they catch up. Finral also runs into his younger brother Langurs in the process, and he declares the Black Bulls will beat the Golden Dawn. They eventually go their separate ways, and Asta gets taken to the top healer in the Clover Kingdom. That's when he learned that he had a curse, and it couldn't be reversed. So he would never be able to use his arms again. Later that day, Asta excuses himself away from the rest of the bulls, leaving all of them concerned. That's when Finral informs them all about Asta's situation. And they all follow him to a cliff with the moon shining down on him. That's where Asta screams out to fate, telling it he doesn't plan on giving up. If he can't use his arms, he'll find another way. The bulls right then decide they'll find a way to heal Asta's arms, although they all try. Asta inevitably runs into Noelle and Finral, and they all find out Vanessa is probably at the witch's forest after they visited an old friend Fonzel, and his wife Domina and Mariella. Asta met Fonzel in his past before he had tried out for the Magic Knights. He's actually the one who taught Asta how to fight using swords properly. And Domina was his girl who he defected the Diamond Kingdom with, and Mariella one of his students the kingdom wanted to turn into a weapon. They all head to the witch's forest where their teammate and friend Vanessa is at. Vanessa is in danger. Vanessa defected from the witch's forest, displeasing the witch queen. So leaving a second time for her would probably be impossible, so they had to hurry. They arrive to find Vanessa hurt, and go to help lashing out at the witch queen. They're about to engage her, but they're all interrupted by the Diamond Kingdom invading. Alongside the Eye of the Midnight Sun, the bulls offer the witch queen help if she cures Asta's arms. She agrees and cures Asta's arms, and off the bulls go into battle, facing off against Fauna the Hateful of the Third Eye. Meanwhile, Fonzel fights two of his students, Ladros and Mars. Both turned into puppets by the Diamond Kingdom, clearly influencing the mages with embedded stones in their foreheads. Fonzel fought Ladros and found that his attacks were just being absorbed, and he couldn't do much. Ladros also asks Fonzel if he brought anyone he cared about to the forest. He then tells him that he better get going. Fonzel rushes to protect Domina, and he does, but he ends up injured. Ladros is about to attack Domina, but before he can, Mars defends her. Mars then tells Ladros their mission was to ascertain the method in which the queen keeps her youth. But Ladros would rather kill them as well, and Mars gets ready to stop him. Technically making him a traitor, Mars and Fonzel know they can't beat him. So their only option is head over to Asta and the rest of the bulls present fight Fauna. At the moment all they're able to do is defend, as Noelle can't overwhelm the fire spirit. Once the fire spirit is done taking down Noelle's defense spell, he sends a fireball at them. Before Asta supports the attack behind them, finally landing the attack. Fauna then begins to use a self-destruct attack, Mars recognizing Fauna as a childhood friend, who he had to fight to the death, tries to reach her but she just continues trying to ignore him. So he and Asta both move through the heat to release Fauna of whatever control has her losing her mind. Using Phoenix Robe they're able to stop the spell from going off, and they save Fauna. After they think they've won, Ladros comes back powered up, and after threatening to kill Mars, Fauna hits him with the power of the Flame Spirit. He absorbs it and actually surpasses it. The others back off and Asta decides it probably best to try and access the power he gained fighting Veto. Using ki he learned from Yami, Asta senses the anti-magic. He then allows it to spread all over his body. Asta grows one wing and is almost beating Ladros with ease. However, the Witch Queen decides she wants to see what Asta is fully capable of, and destroys anything limiting the anti-magic from flowing as freely as possible. As soon as that happens, Asta gains an extra wing, an extra marking on his face. Black hair instead of his usual white hair, and a pointy tail. Afterwards he easily beats Ladros, and powers down. However, before he can celebrate, the Witch Queen takes control and shows her true colors. She had no intention of letting them go. After taking control she commands Asta to kill his friends. However, before he can kill Noelle he stops himself. Although he's unconscious, he's too strong-willed to be controlled. That is until she forces more of her power. Afterwards Asta can't stop himself. Vanessa begs the queen to not kill her friends, but the queen wants to teach Vanessa a lesson. Before Asta can kill Noel, Vanessa unlocked the red thread of fate, a magical cat that can change fate to the will of the caster, thus making it impossible for the witch queen to kill any of her friends. The cat then changes fate to an outcome in which Asta hits himself, dispelling the witch queen's control and making things easier for the team. After the witch queen then tries to control Vanessa, and in the process the red thread of fate. The red thread dispels the queen's spell and frees everyone, after realizing she had held Vanessa back. She decides to heal all of her friends, and even gives them her magic stone. After which they say goodbye to Mars and Ladros, who promise they'll change the Diamond Kingdom. And they head back to the Black Bull's hideout, where they assure the rest of the squad he had recovered. Although bummed they weren't the ones who helped fix it, they were happy for him. The Bulls celebrated and went back to training, especially since Luck and Magna gained a huge power-up in a dungeon. Days later the Bulls talk with Yami about the star ceremony, and their participation. They are told they will be going as it is required, and besides it's fun. They all arrive at the ceremony and spread out to explore. Asta and Noel meet Kyoto and Kaho no. They all enjoy the festival. Meanwhile Magna sets up a fireworks launcher. Finral sets up a competition between Charlotte and Vanessa, putting on a show for nearby onlookers. Eventually the Star Festival arrives at the announcement stage, and all captains are brought out. And eventually the top rookies of the year, Asta, Yuno, Nash and Rose are brought up. The Golden Dawn is first in terms of stars as always, however the Black Bulls are second, shocking everyone. Some try to discredit the Bulls, but multiple people who they helped come to their defense. Eventually some of the people try to discredit Asta, Yuno, Nash and Rose simply for being commoners. But that gets shut down, as the four put on a quick show of strength. The whole event eventually comes to an end, when the Royal Knights are announced by the king. Asta and the rest of the Bulls arrive ready to participate, although not all of them plan on it. After being assigned to random teams, the tournament begins. Asta ends up on a team with Mimosa, and a guy named Xerx. First matchup, Rill, the captain of the Aqua Deer, easily beats Nash and his team. After a couple of matches Asta has to beat Magna's team. Zora or Xerx and Mimosa take on the other team directly, while Magna and Asta fight. Fire magic against fire magic. Eventually Asta pulls out anti-magic and Magna can't really keep up. Eventually his crystal is destroyed, and Asta and his team are victorious. After that matchup Finral has to go against his spoiled little brother. They face off in a match. Finral defending his crystal while his teammates try and take out the enemy's crystal, but the battle intensifies after Langris, Finral's little brother, begins to radiate a dark magic. They engage in a final battle in which Finral ends up severely injured, his crystal also destroyed. The match is over, however his brother plans on still killing Finral, and the Bulls launching in his defense. With a sword, baseball bat and claw at his throat, he backs up if only slightly. With the Bulls threatening him, he only insults them, daring them to try. Before it goes any further the Wizard King steps in and as his top medic take care of Finral, but the tension between the Bulls and Langris hasn't died down. After insulting Finral, Asta fires back at Langris, calling him a disgrace to the Magic Knights. Langris launches an attack at Asta, who easily destroys it, before they can take it any further. They're both restrained in a time bubble by the Wizard King, and the match between their teams is moved up. The match starts a little bit afterwards. Asta immediately engages Langris in combat, eventually relying on Zora to protect him until he is able to access his black form. He's able to easily beat Langris after giving a speech that resonates with everyone, and changes a couple. Giving his team a swift victory, he then falls to his knees tired. Zora after the match shits on Langris and points out that he seems to believe strength justifies his actions. And also makes him right, so in a sense since Asta is right and he's wrong. And proceeds to call out everyone else out on their flaws, also himself calling out that he should depend on his teammates. Asta watches Noel, Yuno and their teammate beating their opponent Asta land on the ground, opposite of each other. Eventually they both decide they won't hold back, Asta completely entering his black form. 2 wings, 2 devil horns, a devil tail, anti-magic engulfing his form. Yuno merging with the wind spirit Sylph or Bell, the name Yuno gave her which she accepted. Green energy consuming his form, with a crown over his head and 2 green wings on his back. Yuno pulls out a green sword, and Asta puts away his demon destroyer sword. Asta and Yuno engage in a fight that reshapes the landscape. Both teams struggling to not fall in between rock formations, brought about by the battle of the two. Most people are unable to even see them moving at this point. Each clash of the weapons sends shockwaves that rock the earth. Finally, after an intense battle, Asta sends a fire attack imbued with anti-magic. Yuno sends an arrow powered by strong winds towards Asta's crystal. Both crystals are destroyed at the same time, because the 2 last teams tied there is no victor. Asta, Luck and Noel were dragged out of the Black Bull's hideout after being told they were a part of the group that passed. Luck rubbing it into Magna, but Magna vowed to train while they were on their mission. After arriving at the meeting spot of the Royal Knights, they discussed their next move. They plan on attacking in a couple days, but after finding a spy within their shadows, they decide they'll attack the next day, so they all needed to rest. The next day they made their way outside of the Midnight Sun's hideout. Organizing an attack strategy, they move into the hideout, fighting their way into the center. Meanwhile, Captain Yami found himself at the Golden Dawn's hideout, but after waiting a couple minutes decides to just leave. If Vengeance wanted to apologize on Langer's behalf, he should have been on time. He decides to head toward the capital. He wanted to discuss something with Julius. After a while of talking to William Vengeance, William reveals that Lit, the leader of the Eye of the Midnight Sun, shares a body with himself and he can't decide whose side to take. Lit tells Julius he must die. Their battle begins and Lit struggles. Not able to beat Julius, sure, he has gotten some attacks in, but Julius is able to reverse the injury due to time magic. Lit decides he's going to kill everyone in the kingdom by using an attack that can span the whole kingdom. He launches the attack and Julius is forced to protect the whole kingdom. In the moment, Lit attempts to stab Julius while he is preoccupied and steal the magic stones within his possession. However, he's only able to take the stones when Yami arrives, blocking the attack aimed at Julius's chest. After seeing Yami's arrival and already getting the magic stones, Lit decides it's best to call it a day and runs off to Valtos, and they escape using spatial magic. Yami asks Julius what happened, and he explained everything to Yami. Meanwhile, the Royal Knights attack the Midnight Sun's base, fighting off and killing most. Mario Leona almost kills Raya, one of the strongest members, and he decides he's going to self-destruct. However, before any attacks can land, Asta, after noticing Raya's next move, rushes past Mario Leona and stops the self-destruct spell. He then asks Mario Leona why they should just kill their enemies. Why not try to understand each other? And Raya really does appreciate Asta. But what he wants most is to see Lit again, right as Asta finishes. Raya begins to glow, and explains that the elves are regaining their original powers. Raya, after getting his elf form back, is joined by more elves. And Mario Leona, Asta and Zora get ready to face them all. Although Mario Leona tries to get rid of them, and fight the elves by herself. But Asta insists on helping, so using Zora's trap magic they send a huge attack originally from elves back at them, allowing them to run away. But unfortunately Raya catches Asta. After the elves get their old powers back, they all gather, after taking over the bodies of some of the magic knights. The elves begin to invade the Clover Kingdom. Klaus, Yuno and Hammond all get possessed. They immediately put Mimosa on a cross ready to execute her, but Asta shows up. Saving Mimosa, he had fallen out of Raya's spatial magic. The elves occupying the bodies of his old teammates immediately attack Asta and Mimosa. But they're defended by Yuno. The elves are confused as to why the reincarnated elf would help the humans. The elves welcome him to their side. When he refuses, they ask why. He tells them that they may not realize it, but he is awake. He is an elf, however. He was an unborn baby when he died. He didn't develop a personality, a sense of self. Until now, having woken up, he realizes he is Yuno. In a sense, there is human Yuno and there is elf Yuno, 2 different souls but one identity. so as an elf he can sympathize with them and understand their family, but the humans they're trying to hurt are also family. And he's not just going to stand by and watch. Asta asks, so we're still brothers? Of course, is the answer he received. Although some part of the elves wanted to listen, something inside kept them from doing so. They get ready to attack Yuno and Asta along with Mimosa, so they decide to power up and incapacitate the two, which they are swiftly and easily able to do. But right after the leader of the elves licked the actual licked, wakes, he goes to attack Yuno and Asta. Right after safely putting down his comrades, he charges at Yuno and Asta. Lick takes the Demon Dweller sword, and proceeds to absolutely stomp both. Sure, they're able to push him here and there, but he's just too strong. Eventually he knocks them back, and pushes them with Yuno's attack. Leaving alongside Raya once the battle is over, the elves meet up with them. And they head for the capital of the Clover Kingdom. They begin their attack. The elf that has taken over Luck attacks a town, where he encounters Magna and Vanessa. After regrouping with Noelle, Kirsch, Nozel, Asta and the others head to the capital of the kingdom. But on their way there they all notice Hosh village being attacked. Asta and Yuno jump down to help. They easily beat the elf, and with Asta's new sword, they undo the reincarnation spell casted, and start to have some hope. They get some food to regain some strength, and explain everything going on. Then they prepare to get back into battle, and they're joined by Digit the knight they helped. And they fly off towards the capital, eventually having to split off. Yuno towards a different location, and Asta towards the town being attacked by Luck. Luck is absolutely destroying Vanessa and Magna, or at least the elfin side of Luck. And after nearly draining Vanessa's mana, Rouge wasn't going to last much longer. Before Rouge disappeared, she brought Asta closer, and Asta saved Magna. He then begins to fight Luck on his own, and after activating his black form, he is able to beat the elf possessing Luck easily, and then informs the other two on what's happening. In a different part of the kingdom, Nash and fellow squad member Caden fight off against David, a member of the Golden Dawn. After being possessed by an elf, his dice magic making him pretty strong. Nash and Caden struggle fighting him. He's able to push them back, creating strong attacks based on the roll. The higher the number, the stronger the attack. After beating Ruffle the elf that possessed Luck, Asta, Magna, Luck and Vanessa all head back to the Black Bull's hideout to regroup and tackle the invasion as a group. When they arrive, they find the base in tatters. The only members around Gordon, Gray, and Henry tell them about Ghosh being possessed by an elf, and Asta tells them it isn't his fault. They all get extremely anxious as they feel as a tremendous amount of mana, and get ready to fight. Until they see it's just Charmy, although a very pissed off Charmy. Charmy then demands to know who it was, throwing the vague question around over and over. Finally elaborating at the end, asking who it was that ruined her crops, that she had been working on. Eventually calming down the others as the mana they were feeling, well, it was menacing. They then tell her it was the Eye of the Midnight Sun. She then repeats their words as if contemplating something. She then tells them to eat up as they're going to go teach them a lesson. Turns out Charmy's magic can restore mana. They then set off towards the capital and the base. As they had met Henry, they then learn about his power. Using the base, they storm towards the capital, full speed ahead. Meanwhile, at the capital, Yami, Finral and Jack fight some elves outside the king's castle. After beating them, they notice a giant rock formation floating above. Then realizing it must be the base of the Eye of the Midnight Sun, and behind it Nozel on a silver eagle. Behind him some of Yami's subordinates, and many others. He laughs and tells Nozel he better go defend his home. And pretends to not remember Zora, but inside laughs it's about damn time. Yami, Finral, and Jack rush to protect the king, while Nozel, Noelle and Zora head into the Silva's castle. Yami and his group run into some elves outside the king's castle, and easily beat them. They then make their way inside to fight the elf possessing Langris, Finral's little brother. They fight him and after a tough battle are able to knock him unconscious, but really it was Finral that beat him. Before running into anyone, Zora splits off from Noelle and Nozel. Noelle tries to stop him, but Nozel gets her to focus. They then run into an elf. He tries to attack them, but Nozel almost comically beats him after he yelled he would crush them, while going down easily. Meanwhile, inside of Solid's room, Nebra faces off against one of the elves. She tries to fight her, but the elf using her compass magic spots her and stabs her, leaving Nebra injured. Solid then tries attacking the mage, but his attacks are easily blocked. He then gets saved by Nozel, and Noelle attacks using her sea dragon's roar, but her attack is diverted. Nozel and Noelle get ready for battle, and to protect their siblings. But as they attack, they find their attacks being messed with by a zone created by the elf's magic. Nozel is injured and it all seems hopeless, until Noelle unlocks a new spell called Valkyrie's Armor, allowing her to move freely in the space. She then goes on the attack, and begins to beat the elf, eventually beating her. Although before celebrating, more elves destroy the ceiling to the room, and begin to attack them. Before they get any closer though, Zora appears carrying a servant. He commands the servant to head over and heal the injured Nebra. He does so, although reluctantly. He then criticizes Nozel since he's the type of royal to think himself better than a commoner, yet he finds himself injured and on the ground. Noelle goes to defend Nozel, but he stops her, and says he's right, so he steps up his game. And Zora activates a spell that allows the two to see his traps he's set up around the area. And they begin to defeat the elves using his traps and their magic, and it works out perfectly. The Shadow Palace is opened, and the Apostles of Seyfarah head in, allowing Sekri to talk and instructing Finral to help her revive the Wizard King, and get him to join the fight. They all rush forward, but before they can fully, two elves get in the way, the elf controlling Gauche and the elf controlling his sister Marie. Both get into a battle with the bulls there, before anything can happen. The rest of the bulls come storming into battle, after gathering reinforcements through old enemies, and only after having taken down some of the elves around the kingdom on their way here. They all jump to help, but before they can engage, the elf possessing Dorothy, the captain of the Coral Peacocks, sends some of them into her dream world. Gordon, Gray, and Henry all help Asta beat Gauche and Marie, freeing them of the reincarnation spell. In the dream world, the bulls plus Sally fight off the elf possessing Dorothy. However, after realizing falling asleep in her world means never waking up, they try to find a more effective way of fighting her. Luck thinks of a plan and runs it by Sally, after trying to get her to think of an exit. She closes them before they can use any of them, so after Luck's plan is enacted, Dorothy herself is spawned into the world, after they made her elf counterpart think of her. The two have an intense battle. However, the dream world can't sustain the two and begins to collapsing in on itself, freeing the bulls and the elf controlling Dorothy. Luck and Magna seize the opportunity and take her out, then turning their sights to the other bulls, who within the same moment freed Gauche and his sister. They were about to be attacked by more elves, but Mario Leona and Fugo Leon stepped in, intercepting the threat, and immediately gathering to head into the Shadow Palace. The knights gather and head straight into the Shadow Palace, to stop the elves. If they don't, the human souls will be trapped in the underworld, so the elves can keep their new bodies. Once inside, they are all teleported to different locations, all having to face different opponents. Asta and Mimosa have to face off against Rill, who is still possessed. Mario Leona goes against Veto. Noelle faces Fauna. Fuego Leon fights Lord Kaiser. Meanwhile, outside the Shadow Palace, Yuno arrives with many magic knights assisting the bulls outside, and then heads inside the palace. Eventually, Nash and Caden are able to get the better of David, in another part of the kingdom. Rose and her three teammates fight off against Fauna the elf, Rose copying her magic as best as possible to combat her attacks. Destino using imagination magic to create water spells, a direct counter. Luz using weapon magic sends arrows flying towards Fauna. And Zoe sending sound attacks at Fauna, but she's just too strong, eventually overwhelming them, and once they're all exhausted, she sent a final attack on them. But they were saved by Finral. He sent them somewhere safe, then went back to help Yami and Jack. They go back to taking down some of the elves around, the bigger fish being in the Shadow Palace. So before Yuno can make his way in, they all grab on and go in as well. Charmy also hitches a ride unintentionally with Yuno while fawning over him, Charmy ends up joining Asta and Mimosa. After she and Yuno are separated after entering the Shadow Palace, she then proceeds an attempt at cheering up the elf, who proceeds to smack the plate of food in her hands and attacks her. Charmy is set plummeting to the ground. Asta and Mimosa are both worried, until Charmy's magic flares up, stronger than before, and her grimoire unlocks a different half. Turns out Charmy is half dwarf, and she uses her second magic, food magic, summoning a giant wolf that was hidden under sheep's clothing. And the wolf eats the elf's magic and turns it into her magic, making her more powerful. With that, she's able to beat the elf-possessed Rill. In another part of the base, Yuno is facing off against Riot and Licht, until one of the elves next to Riot and Licht betrays them. Turns out it was a devil who had possessed Ron-A. Before anyone can react, Riot gets a hole in his gut, and the devil possessing Ron-A comes out, and using Yuno's stone recovers his body from the underworld. After which he proceeds to torture Patri, telling him the truth about his manipulation, the truth of Licht's intentions, and the absence of his participation in Patri's plans. The reason he looks like Licht is idle, the reason he got the 4-leaf clover. All to give him a sense of purpose, supposedly brought up on him by Licht. Really, it was all on the devil who the first Wizard King and Licht stopped. He needed a pawn and Patri was just fine. This drives Patri into despair. Yuno figures he can't fight the devil on his own, so he needs backup. As if on cue, Asta comes falling into the room, through the roof, screaming out to Yuno. Yuno yells back at him, informing him of the real threat, and they both go into their power-ups. Only their single-winged forms though to pace themselves, however, before either of them can jump in. The devil further manipulates Patri, as he now has turned into a dark elf. And the devil Zagrid now has a 5-leaf grimoire. Once a 4-leaf user falls into despair, a 5-leaf grimoire is born. He runs off towards the exit. He sees the actual Licht, but that Licht is not at full power, and he doesn't want to waste time. So he just immobilizes Licht and escapes the Shadow Palace. Outside of the Shadow Palace, the devil terrorizes the kingdom. A few moments prior, Finral was taken aback by Nero all of a sudden speaking. The bird told him to gather the stones, and wanted Finral to take them to the statue of the Wizard King, which he does after putting all the stones into the Wizard King. Nero begins to shapeshift from a bird to a human being, and the statue of the Wizard King comes to life. After explaining things to Finral, they take off towards the Shadow Palace. They see the devil Zagrid, but they need to get to Licht first. While fighting Patri, Asta and Yuno try to not kill him, but they also can't even immobilize him either, before they decide to power up further. The captain of the Silver Eagles, Nozel Silva, shows up, and is able to beat Patri easily. Before he can kill Patri, Asta offers to free Captain William from the elf, and while doing so is dragged into Patri's subconscious, where he is still being manipulated by the devil's spell, giving Patri an out from taking all the responsibility, also bringing him back. Once back in control, all of the combatants head towards the exit after arriving in the Shadow Palace. Nero's real name is actually Setcray and is with Lumiere, the first Wizard King, are able to stabilize Licht, bringing him back fully, after which they all inform the others of what's going on. With the Magic Knights and Elves united, they all arrive outside the Shadow Palace. They need a way to quickly inform the other elves. Patri decides to bring back William to use his World Tree magic, and in combination with Licht's magic, they are able to inform both the elves and humans on what's happening. After which Zagrid realizes he has a bunch of elves and humans to face off against. Both the elves and Magic Knights step back as they see the first Wizard King, and Licht step up to face off against the devil. Most people, even civilians, see the first Wizard King, and confused on how he's back. But regardless, he's protecting them, and alongside who they thought would be the enemy. Both take off against the devil, both displaying power unrivaled. Veto, Fana, and Raya all try to help. But in order to fight against the devil, one has to be Arcane Stage, a mage affected by the underworld. Asta and Yuno both power up fully. Patri figures out since he turned into a dark elf, he's able to use a demonic version of his light magic. With that, he joins the fight and begins to back up. Licht, Lumiere, Yuno and Asta. Beside him, Yami jumps in. not knowing if his magic will work, but Zagred avoids his attack, sort of confirming his suspicion. Zagred dodges Asta's slash and tries to impale him with a trident, but it gets blocked. Yuno, using a sword he formed using magic gathered from the others, making his sword arcane, tries to get Zagred while he's distracted, but it doesn't work. Using a spell called Tempest of Blades he pushes Yuno back. Lumiere rushes in and throws a light sword. It gets dodged, but Lit intercepts it, and catches Zagred with it. Zagred goes to heal, but before he can, Yami appears behind him, slashing his left arm right off. Patri coming in and using Demon Light Magic Light Whip of Judgment. He wraps it around Zagred, and covering his mouth, making it impossible for him to use his magic. Asta and Yuno descend and stab Zagred in the chest, but it just pisses him off. After which he begins to laugh as he moved his heart to a different location of his body. He unleashes more magic. A magic that consumes everything begins to move. Some of the magic knights try to stop it. After feeling the intense magic, Nash and Caden rush towards the fight, in a different part of the kingdom. Rose and her squad and Zoe also feel the power and head over to try and help. Viento and Setke both rush towards the enormous power as well, Viento also teasing Setke if he's ready to put his training to use. They arrive and try to help, but quickly realize their magic needs to be arcane to kill the devil. The only reason Yuno was able to help was because he was able to gather the surrounding mana and formed a sword using said mana, making an arcane wind sword. Nash and the others want to help, but how? At this point all they could do was watch. Viento however launches forward. Ghost magic ghostly spear, teleporting behind Zagred, he stabs him in the shoulder. The attack actually damaging the devil. Ghost magic, it makes sense of power like it would be arcane. Rose using her copy magic uses ghost magic as well. Destino using his imagination magic is able to create spells that do work, but spells typically that seem to have more in common with arcane stage mages. Dark magic, time magic, anti-magic, this allows him to fight. Nash, watching everyone around him as he's left behind, starts to feel a little useless. Zoe next to him as well is able to relate. Out of nowhere the box he had before begins to release an enormous amount of negative mana. It surrounds Nash and Zoe before it fully does. Setke reminisces he had finally begun to train. He started to actually care about being strong, and it was all thanks to Nash. Before the mana fully consumes both of them, he dives in. Nash and Zoe notice. He thought they might need backup. With whatever was happening, they look up to see 10 figures. 10 more devils. They become frightened before the devils explain that the box full of trinkets are magic trinkets that hold a connection to all 10 of them, and with those trinkets they'd be able to use their magic, making them arcane. When Nash asks the devils why they would help, they tell them about the hierarchy, and they would like nothing more than to rub it in the face of one of their superiors. They then instruct Nash to give at least 2 of the other trinkets to the other 2. As Nash isn't strong enough at this point to hold the power of 3 devils, let alone 10. 3 would help out the other devil in the fight, the others would just watch in amusement. Nash handed one of the trinkets to Zoe and another to Setke. After the 3 put the trinkets around their necks, they felt the presence inside, allowing them to communicate with the devil they received. The devil that stayed prominent for Nash, Sob, gives him demonic wind magic. Wu, the devil Zoe got, gives her the ability to use demonic catastrophe magic. And finally Setke's new devil allows him use to demonic fog magic. They all jump in to help. Asta and Yuno slashing at Zagred, but are struggling, especially with Lumiere and Lit now out of the fight. With everyone seemingly outperforming him, Asta decides he needs to push his limits even further. Accessing his grimoire, he finally sees a spell activate flame reinforcement magic Flame Knight. Asta lunges forward, uppercutting Zagred. Yuno using his sword cuts one of Zagred's arms. Zoe using demonic catastrophe magic Catastrophic Tornado Bind. Demonic Wind Blade. Nash shouts as he chops off Zagred's head, however it isn't enough, and before they can finish him off, Asta and Yuno's power-ups run out, as they've been fighting the longest, and Zagred breaks free, ready to destroy them all. However, before he can, Yami unleashes a dark magic dimension / equinox, severely damaging Zagred, and giving Sekri the chance to heal both Asta and Yuno. asking them who would be the Wizard King. And with one final slash paralleling through Zagred's heart, they finish off the devil and save the kingdom. As Zagred the devil begins to die, he meets Asta's devil, among the other 10 as well, who mock him. But before they can celebrate, the magic Zagred left behind continues to move. Slowly afterwards, though, they destroy it all, ready to say goodbye. Licht and William get ready to create a spell to bind all elves, and with Asta's help send them all back. However, before that can happen, Patri is given a new body. Popping out of William with the same happening to the rest of the elves, Lumiere believes he will be the only one to leave, but is also granted a renewed body, giving him life once again. All of a sudden they hear a voice tell them it's all a reward. He introduces himself as the guardian of Earth. He tells them to live life and enjoy it, but also mentions he has one last wish, which can be granted. He asks Lumiere and Licht if they have a wish, the last piece of the puzzle that started all of this. They ask if he can bring back Lumiere's sister and Licht's wife Tia. He mentions that he can't grant that wish with the Earth's set of Dragon Balls, but if he sends someone into space, he tells them to give him a couple of months, and they will have their Tia. Then he says goodbye, disappearing before their eyes.